I was just saying to Stan, I've thought of every contingency about recording podcasts, apart from what happens if you run out of space on your computer. So anyway, that's by the by. So we were talking about the difference between consulting, working in house, and working for an agency, at which you would choose. And you said you would go with the consultancy. Um, how do you find, again, one of the challenges I've always found with consultants is how they find their business. So how do you find business for how do you find your clients?
So I think I've been really lucky in the over the years. So when I first started working at Kuzo, we didn't do any sort of conference speaking. We didn't really have any attendance or sort of presence at any events across the UK or around the world. And I convinced the owner to let us do that and get the brand's name out there, get the agency's name out there. And we started having various people go off and do conference talks, or we'd sponsor different events. And it's from that that I've made a huge amount of connections globally, just from speaking at different conferences and networking. And I think that for me is where I would say I get the vast majority of work from, followed then by sort of other referrals from existing clients where they're saying, oh, somebody said that they need a bit of PPC support and they'll then say, go and speak to Sam. Or also businesses where you've got one person working there and then they move jobs and
Yeah,
then you follow them. So I think I've been really lucky, and literally I say I touch wood every day on this one because I do feel genuinely, well, it is lucky really that I've got such a lovely network of people in this industry, and everyone is so friendly and so helpful that if you need a little bit of help or you've got a little bit of downtime, you reach out to a few people and they put the feelers out and off you go again. So I think that absolutely fundamental. I think I couldn't understand. I don't know how people being freelancers that don't have a network of people can generate business, because I think it would be a really, really tough market to be in, especially now, like you were touching on with everyone working at home with COVID and stuff, post COVID. There are so many more freelancers out there
yeah.
that I think it's becoming even more competitive, which is, it must be quite a challenge for a fair few. And to say, touch wood every day.
Yeah, I always remember when I first started, I was working from home, went away on holiday, and like yourself, I used to work and try and do things. But at the time, this kind of predated everyone having laptops and internet being all over the
Mhm.
place. So most of the time, I would be putting on my trainers and running down to the local village to try and find an internet cafe. And there'd be all
Yeah.
these like 10-year-olds playing games, and I'm sitting there trying to manage a It was, like, so unprofessional, but at the end of the day, that was the Wild West, really, 'cause it like I said,
Yeah.
I think a laptop at the time was about 5 grand, and I just thought, "I can't afford one of those."
I'll do that.
So I'd say, "I'll have 2 hours on this computer." I would go down there in the morning, do some work, go back, have some lunch, go for a swim,
Yeah.
go back there in the afternoon, do a bit more work, go out for a drink in the evening, go there again, and I'm sure they
Yeah.
might have thought, "Well, I wonder what game he's playing," and I'm like, "I'm not playing a game, I'm here for work."
Like a homeless worker. Trying to shelter yourself from the cold.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's like I said, it just evolved, and I remember my very first PPC client, they said, "Can you do this for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, I can do that." And then I'm like, "I did that." Quickly
Why did I
going off
do
to
that?
try and find out how to do it, whereas I think the days of winging it are probably gone. I think much further past that than before. But interesting, you talked there about the investing money in sending people away to speak at conferences and sponsoring
Yeah.
events. I'm amazed at how few agencies now will do that. They won't encourage people to go and speak. They won't encourage people to attend conferences. They won't do any sponsorship. To me, it was always a complete and utter no-brainer. Every time I spoke at a conference, I would walk away. I said it used to be like shooting fish in a barrel. You'd go along, you'd
Yeah.
present, there'd be a queue of people that would want to talk to you. As long as you've done some great content, and I know from watching you speak, you deliver great content. So it would be, again, a no-brainer for people to want to go, "She's pretty knowledgeable. I think we'll hire her to do some work for us." I think for me, I know,
Yeah. I
uh,
did good. Oh, for it.
yeah, and I think I know, again, I don't know if you consciously stepped away from speaking, but I know there was a period where you didn't do speaking so much, right?
Yeah.
And was that kinda conscious or subconscious?
Yeah. No, that was on purpose. So that was just before COVID. We were looking at sort of our time and our schedule and what we were doing every sort of couple of months. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we're traveling all over the place, which is amazing. Like, and I would never be ungrateful for that. But I think we spoke, I spoke in Orbit in Slovenia, which is a brilliant conference, and flew in, looked amazing in the location where we were, right on the waterfront. And I was there for 3 days. And the only thing I saw was a bar, a restaurant, and the conference hall.
Yeah,
But I've ticked it off on my bucket list of places that I've been to Slovenia. And it's like, I haven't actually been there because I haven't seen anything. I've been in the country, I've stayed overnight. And it was getting to that point where we're trying to squeeze everything in and running out of time. And then COVID hit. And we were at home for a very long period of time.
7, yeah,
And it was quite nice. It was nice to not be traveling all the time. It was nice to be just able to spend time with the kids, to be actually able to focus on work and stuff around the homes. I did take a step back for a few years, to be fair. And I've slowly started doing little, because you get a bit of a bug for it, don't you?
you do.
It's good fun. And so, yeah, I've started doing a little bit more again. And I've got a couple lined up that I'm looking to do, but I'm going to be a little bit more selective rather than saying yes to everything.
Yeah,
And if they are overseas, just trying to tie in a couple of extra days to actually see the country. Because again, putting together a slide deck is a huge amount of work.
yeah.
I've also
Well,
never
I don't think
presented the
people
same deck
appreciate
twice.
I don't think people
Um,
appreciate how hard it is. Again, I know
yeah,
some people will just blow the dust off one they had prepared earlier, change the name of the conference they're
yeah,
attending at. I always make sure I completely start from scratch with a brand new
so
topic
do I.
and go right from the beginning rather than trying to repurpose something I've got from before. And yeah, and much like you, I used to travel, I worked it out, I used to travel for 3 months of the year, speaking at conferences and traveling around the world, right? Which was great. I always said, as long as you've got a laptop, you can do your job anywhere. Right?
Can do
So
your
I
job.
work from
Yep.
home. As long as I had decent internet at the hotel I was staying at or the
Yeah.
venue I was speaking at, I could do my job anyway. I used to purposefully do that. I would go and visit friends and visit, stay with them, have a good time. And then, as you say, COVID happened. We stopped traveling, and I don't know what else. I think when it came back, I think I had a few health problems pre-COVID and during COVID, and
Yeah.
then I just thought, you know what, I need to invest some time into myself. So I kind of
In
lost
yourself.
weight and
Yeah.
started walking and getting a bit fitter. And that I purposefully took myself off the speaker stage, right? I wanted to
Yeah.
allow other people to have the opportunity to get out and
Yeah.
speak.
And it's
Well,
actually nice, isn't it, to watch all these other, there's so many new people now that you think, oh, and they're producing brilliant content that if
yeah.
we all stuck there and did the same thing, they wouldn't get a chance.
But at the same time, I also thought, I used to say to people, I'm too old, too male, and too white. And I wanted to try and encourage more female speakers, more people of color, and younger people to get out there and speak. And
Yeah.
but equally, I think it's also important that people don't lose sight of where we've come from, where we are now, where we're hopefully trying to get to. And hopefully I
Yeah.
can convey some of that when I do speak at conferences. So I have, like you, been a bit more selective in terms of coming back and doing,
Yeah.
I've done PubCon a couple of times, delivered 1 day workshops. So it's a full day where we can really get into the weeds on stuff.
Yeah.
Love that. Absolutely love doing that sort of thing, the kind of the 1 day workshops. I know you used to do that, those at Brighton, didn't you? Brighton SEO.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
I did. Yeah.
and for me,
And that
I
is
used to
something,
love that.
again, that's potentially on the cards again. Because I love those sort of smaller groups. I remember when you first did training at Brighton, when we first started doing the PPC training, we had there was one day where we had 35 people on the training course, which was a huge amount of people. And then obviously they've now
Probably too
diversified it
many.
and put lots of different sort of tracks on. But it's so much that I find that really rewarding, because then you've got people coming to you and asking afterwards, like, I've put this in place. So you can see that you genuinely are helping. And so I'm with you on that. I think there's conference talking, and then conference speaking, and then workshops is they're so different, aren't they? What you expect from them.
Yeah, and I think again, I think because of the fact that a lot of conferences lost their slots at the hotels that they were at, a lot of them have
Yeah.
really never regained where they were. So I think probably Brighton SEO is the one show that I think has really didn't miss a beat. They
And
come back
grown.
just as big. They've grown. They've opened
Yeah.
up in the States. I know in the States they really rolled the carpet out with the kind of speakers that they had. So again, like I know in the UK, they've gone down the route of trying to encourage new speakers, first timers, people that maybe not have done it before. Whereas in the States, they like literally they brought out the A list of who's the biggest and best in the business in terms of SEO,
Yeah.
PPC in Brighton SEO in San Diego, and it paid off. They had a great first show. I think they had a great second show, and it's just going to evolve and continue to get bigger and bigger. But at the same time, I think a lot of the success of that comes from they give a lot of tickets away. There's this kind of scramble of people trying to get on the ballot. They get
Yeah.
a 1-day ticket, not a 2-day ticket. So if they want one, they have to buy the other one. And virtually everyone gets the opportunity to go and attend a workshop. And a lot of
Yep.
people go, going to be there anyway. I might as well do that. And another day in a hotel and £300 or £400 on the kind of cost of the workshop. It's a no-brainer. So they can get education, training, learn from somebody like yourself who's a seasoned professional, knows what they're talking about, but they can get more time than you can in a 30-minute presentation. 30 minutes, fine, you'll cover bang. These are all the points. But I think it's important if you really get into the weeds with some of the more detailed stuff in a workshop sort of environment, really make it.
Yeah.
So your company is called Biddable Moments. Do you regret calling it that now?
Yes, I do. Oh my goodness. I really do. It is every time I'm like, right, okay, what's your email address? Sam@biddablemoments.com. Sorry? Biddable. How do you spell that? It is, yeah, it's an absolute. I think back when I started it, biddable was the word that people were using for paid advertising. It was becoming a
Biddable
bit of a
media
buzz. I
was
thought,
the
"Oh,
kind of the big thing, wasn't it? But for
yeah."
whatever
And now it's
reason, it
paid.
just never took. It never
No,
stuck.
it
I
stuck
I
with
tried
me.
to adopt it. I tried to adopt it like you. I thought, "This is it. This is what it's gonna be called. I'm all in for that." Like, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't. It
No,
became paid
it's
social,
not
PPC, and it's
performance marketing. There's all these, and I'm sure in 2 years' time it's gonna change again.
something completely different, yeah.
Oh, yes. So, yes, if I could turn back the clocks, and to be honest with you, I don't really think the name as a freelancer is really a problem. The reason I did it in the first place, when I first left Kuza, I did want to set up a dedicated PPC agency. That was my initial thought process, which is why I went down the let's come up with a name. About 3 weeks after leaving and doing consultancy and freelance by myself, nope, I don't want an agency. I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
I'm happy for it to just be me. And if I need a little bit of support, I've got a bunch of freelancers that I can pull on rather than actually having a whole team of people. So I think that adds so many different layers of stress.
yeah.
And I just didn't want to do it again. So yeah, in hindsight, biddable moments it's not really a thing as such because it does look like I'm an agency when I'm not.
Yeah.
So
I
I
always
have to add that to my to-do list to change, to be fair.
whenever I talk to people and they say, "What do you do?" I always I call my company a consultancy, right? So I do a lot of consulting, but I
Yeah,
also
solve problems.
with the agency of record for some of the clients that we work with. So we handle all aspects of their sort of marketing strategy and implementation. And again, I love the clients, but I also love the one-off projects and problem solving and
Yeah.
helping people get out of deep holes that they may have been in, which sometimes they've been put there by other people and don't realize that
Yeah.
they are where they are.
They don't even know where they are. Yeah.
And then
Until someone uncovers a whole bunch of issues
yeah,
that they're not
Jim, just
necessarily aware if we're there.
you know, Facebook, my Facebook ad's been shut down. What can I happen?
Oh,
And when you actually look at it,
yeah.
you can see why. They go, I was shut down for no apparent reason. It may not have been apparent to you, but it was very apparent to them and very
Very apparent to me.
right. So
Yeah.
and I think that's quite often where you can add value immediately. I had
Yeah.
Casper Szymanski on as a guest a few weeks ago. And he used to be one of the web spam team guys at Google, and then he left to set up his own
Yeah.
sort of SEO consultancy. And what was really helpful when I was working for Cheap Flights, we got booted out of the index by Google in Australia, and basically we've gone from having probably 20, 30,000 visits a day to none, and it happened overnight. And it's when you actually looked at it with the benefits of hindsight, you could see what we had done wrong.
What you've done.
They could see what we'd done wrong, and they were able to fix it really quickly. So they charged
Yeah.
us a lot of money because
Because they
and I
can.
remember the guy who was running SEO basically said, "Oh, that seems like an awful lot of money." I'm like, "What, compared to the money that we're losing for
The
every
money that
day,
we're losing every day.
not
Yeah.
having 30,000 visitors coming in?" I don't really see that there's a comparison between those two.
No, you could literally spend, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So yes, we can buy paid media, and we were. When you get 30,000 organic visitors, it's a lot to try and make up in paid ads.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I think in that respect, it's again, people sometimes don't realize the implications of doing what they do. That's always one of the challenges, is that as much as we think we know best, and quite often with benefits of the expertise we got, we don't. Sometimes things change and you'll get
Yeah.
an ad disapproved, and they, you know, it could be somebody's interpretation of the ad versus your interpretation of the ad, and you
Yep.
go and appeal it and whatever else. And that's, I don't know what your thoughts are on AI. I'd be interested to know what they are. But one of the things that always challenges me is that because more of the decisions about ads validity is being done by AI, I'm more
Yeah.
concerned that we're going to lose some of the ads that are good, but because the AI goes, it's a 1 and 0. It's good. It's approved. It's not approved.
Yeah.
Disapproved. And there's really no kind of appeal process.
I have there's parts of AI that I like, and there's parts of it that I can see really benefit sort of our day-to-day work within in paid advertising. But the vast majority of it at this moment in time, and you can come and ask all this in 3, 4 years' time, and I'll probably tell you a completely different answer. But right now, I don't think it's there. I
No.
don't think, like when I'm looking at the adverts, it's trying to suggest that we write, they don't make sense. The keywords it's trying to suggest we bid on are far too generic and aren't relevant to that particular account.
Yeah.
Even trying to move people from a campaign from this bidding strategy to that bidding strategy without the amount of lead gen businesses that I'm working with and have worked with over the years, where I'm working on a maximize conversions bidding strategy with a target CPA. And then Google's turning around and said, oh, no, it needs to be a maximize conversion value. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a lead gen business. And now, and again, I'd appreciate that. Some lead gen businesses, I do put values against the conversion actions that come in, and I weight them around which ones are the most important, which ones are the lowest.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's quite there yet. I think it's also struggling, particularly with Facebook, on British English to Americanized English
Yeah.
and getting that wrong. So I think, I think there's bits that we can learn from it, but relying on it, I think we are a way off.
Yeah.
I
It's
think.
funny when you're adding an ad to, say, Facebook, and they give you all the AI
Suggestions.
suggested primary text,
Mm.
and they're all full of capital letters and they're full of exclamation
Emojis.
emojis. And I'm thinking, there's no way on this earth that anyone that saw that ad, if I was seeing that ad, I'd be like, what the hell is, but I'm
It's like,
sure that there's
it's
a
so
lot of people
spammy.
just automatically will just accept the tick box being
Yep.
pre-ticked for you. And hey,
Hmm.
all of a sudden, all your ads have got 5 variations that are all horrible. And I think that,
Yes.
again, that's where I think a good consultant, good agency can really make a difference to the performance. It's like knowing what.
Yeah. I've had one client recently. He messaged and said, why have all my images on Facebook, on my ads that I keep seeing, got all of these different colored backgrounds? Jumps in his feed. And then I've gone in, and all of their, on Facebook particularly, they have the automatic suggestions to
Yeah,
enhance the creative. And it's all ticked on by default. And if they add a new feature in, they add it to all your existing ads and they tick it.
yeah,
So even ads that I've had running for a long period of time that I know that option wasn't in there for, it suddenly appears. And that is it's a frustration, because from the client's perspective, our images for our products look horrendous, which granted they did.
yeah,
And I had to go into every single ad one by one and check them all because you couldn't do it on bulk
yeah.
either.
It's they add
Oh,
music. They add, again, don't get me wrong.
yes,
Some of the product
some
images
of
that
it's
clients
useful.
give you go, God, this is horrible. So using
Yes,
generative AI to remove a background that kind of just doesn't fit and turning it into a white background or a
takes it.
perfect. But as you say, like this wholesale, I would say it's a bit like whack-a-mole. You have to go in and
Yes.
retrospectively find what they've done and undo it,
And
because
undo it, which shouldn't be the case.
no,
It should be so that's a frustrating thing. And I think if the advertising platforms were able to utilize AI in the right way,
yeah,
and similar to what Google is doing, to be fair, although if you tick a couple of boxes, they'll automatically do a load of things for you without you realizing.
yeah,
You've got to be aware of that. But I think Google are a little bit further along with, okay, you can deselect everything for the account as a whole and they won't apply it,
yeah.
versus
I mean,
Facebook that gets
it would always
it
be like
on
a lot of
apologise
the
to people.
hidden dangerous stuff would be in a more options. Click on the more options and
Yes.
all this stuff opens up and it's, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this?
Yeah.
And,
Like the automated ad extensions. I always laugh at this one because you go into your ad extension, you've got to click the 3 little lines and it's more options. Then you've got to find your automated ones.
and to me,
Hide it away.
I always think if you are going to mandate these things, they should, again, as you say, you should be able to go at an account level, you go, I don't want to have any of that.
Yes.
Similarly, you should have the ability, they should be opt in and not opt out. default. They shouldn't be on
Yes,
by default and you can opt out of them. They should be off by default and you
absolutely.
can opt into them. And then that way
Yeah,
it is a considered decision that you've made to take it or not
yeah,
take it. And
yes.
and yeah, I think that was always the thing with Google Display Network. You look at it and you look at the number of placements that you get junky traffic from.
Mhm.
And I found myself writing scripts to find every single .cz or whatever. Like there was all these top level domains. Like
Yeah,
I don't think anyone ever bought anything using a .biz or a .cc or a dot. There was so many
no,
TLDs that the publisher would be, sending traffic that just wasn't converting. And you go, you know what? There's no point in me having that on there. You write it into the script, but again, you shouldn't have to do that. You should be,
no, you shouldn't. It's just extra work that's not needed.
yeah,
And then there's all the like with Google now with Performance Max. Again, I love Performance Max, but I'm begging for more information and more insights to it. Because I think it feels like it's going slightly the wrong way in that you want us to adopt different chat campaign types, great. But we need the ability to optimize them and be able to take things out that aren't working. And I think hiding stuff away just doesn't sit right.
yeah.
And
And I remember talking to Lisa Rassler and when we were talking and having a laugh about what they've done is they've basically dumbed down Google Ads using Performance Max to make it better for all advertisers, but the people that were
yes,
able to do it before manually were the ones that were ultimately penalized. You basically turned what could have been a really
yeah,
good product if people understood how it worked into a mediocre
yes,
product for everyone. So everyone could get the same mediocre feature set rather than you understand how GDN works. You understand how YouTube works. You understand how
yeah,
Gmail ads work. Again, I used to run some Gmail ads and get good success with them, but there was such a volatile kind of campaign type that was people just, "Oh, I tried it. It was horrible. It didn't work." It's just
yeah.
because they didn't do it right. In the same way, I learned GDN the hard way. I learned how to do it by spending a bunch of money and not getting any. But
But
eventually,
that is the way you learn. The more you spend on it, the more
kind of
you learn, right?
and it was always the thing, like, people weren't running YouTube ads because they couldn't produce the creative that they needed, and again, some of
Yeah.
the AI has been great in terms of it's been able to create that AI version of the YouTube videos to enable them to
Yeah.
have that additional exposure on placements that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to have.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting time.
So where do you think that the kind of the industry's heading
Oh,
other than AI?
I think it's a tough one. I think for paid media or biddable media, whatever we want to call it, I think it changes so much on a month by month basis. I think it's so hard to predict where it is going because if you were to look back a year ago, we had Performance Max. It wasn't anywhere near as big as what it is now, but it's pushing and pushing.
Yeah,
So do I feel like they are trying to take control of campaign types? Bing have launched Performance Max. Facebook have got Advantage Plus. Even Pinterest have just come back out with their version of Advantage Plus as well. So they're all trying to go down that route, but I don't think it's going to take away from us as advertisers manually having to intervene with certain things. I just don't think we're anywhere near AI completely dominating, taking everything over. I think we're going to see more platforms pushing ads more. I think Google are probably going to start to monetize more than what they already are. Like we're already seeing paid ads appearing midway through the organic result. There's ads coming in. We get 2 to 3 to 4 Mac listings now. Is that all going to get fully monetized at some point?
yeah,
Potentially. So I don't think there's going to be any real fundamental changes, but I think the platform's going to start to monetize things more,
yeah,
which is what we see every year, right? Performance Max is there to make them more money. And
yeah,
it absolutely is. I saw that over Christmas. It was a nightmare. The amount of businesses that you work with that are e-com, H2 up until sort of Q4, it's really strong.
yeah,
This year, everyone has struggled because the actual amount of competitors that are out there from PMAX is
yeah.
twofold.
Yeah, I thought it
And
was
it's
quite
just got more
interesting
expensive.
that I always use Shopify's performance as a barometer. And according
Yeah,
to them, they said that the performance through Black Friday, Cyber Monday was 12% up on the previous year. And I'm like, really? It didn't feel like that to me. It just felt the economy was in a bit of a reset. People were having to pull in their belts a little bit and tighten up
yeah.
a touch. So I don't know. Again, I'm not convinced the performance is that level. And as you say, I think it's probably maybe Shopify sold stuff, but there was more advertisers out there doing it,
Out there actually doing it.
which
Yeah.
meant the advertising profitability for them
landscape as a whole. Yeah.
nowhere near as good as it was.
Whereas if they were to take like for these businesses that we have on Shopify this year versus last year and just
Yeah,
analyze those, I would probably say that a lot of businesses have struggled because I just think it's got so much more competitive. Your average cost per clicks have gone up.
yeah,
And it is a tougher market to play in.
for sure. So
Tricky.
Sam, at some point in time, I'm hoping that we can find an opportunity to meet again in person, have a drink,
Yes.
sit down. Maybe again, I'm hoping I'm going to get down to Brighton SEO later in
Yeah, my
spring.
plan is to be at Brighton
Hoping
because
to be
they've just
there.
the new Hero Conf coming to Brighton this year. I'm going to absolutely be down there for that one.
Yeah, I keep thinking I should put my name down to present at Brighton SEO or HeroConf or whatever again.
You should do again. That was the one I did last year. Actually, I did Brighton in September or October.
Yeah.
The like
The last
paid
time I
search and
presented for
social show,
Kevin,
and I was like,
yeah, I think I presented he did an event, I think it was called Biddable World or something like that. And I
yes,
presented at that and I pulled a party popper in my mouth. I said, this is one of my party pieces. And the premise was just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
yep.
And I'm thinking maybe that's why he didn't want me to ever speak for him again, because he thought I could have blown the back of my head off if I with the party popper. But
Oh, it's good fun. It was a really good. It was nice to actually be back, and because it was actually the first conference I ever did was Brighton, so it's nice to have a break for a few years and then go back
yeah,
to your roots. Like,
I always try and do, I know they have two events in the UK, one in the spring and one in the sort of the autumn. I tend to do
yeah,
one of them. It doesn't always, it's not always the spring, it's not always the autumn. I always try and do one Brighton SEO per
one.
year because I think two is too many. What is, I just
Yeah,
don't,
it's
I don't think I can
hard
cope.
going.
Yeah, it's hard. Again, I network hard, I party hard, I drink too much. It's just no sleep. And
Yeah,
yeah, no,
a
two of those in a year would be just one too many. So
bit too much. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, I will be at the one in April. So hopefully, if
Okay.
you're there, we will catch
I
face
will
again.
definitely see what I can do to make that happen. So, Sam, so
Yeah,
much. Thank you so much for being on today's show. Hopefully, we didn't lose all the video, and I know I've got the audio, but yeah, it's been phenomenal. I'd love to have you on as a guest. Hope to see you again at some point in time in the future. All of Sam's contact details and information about her company that she doesn't really like the name of, Biddable, will be in the show
oh,
notes.
no, you just do Samantha Noble. There we are. That's an easier one, isn't
Yeah,
it?
probably. But yeah, it just remains me to say thank you so much for being a great guest. And to everyone listening and watching in, we see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.
Perfect. Thank you.